eccentric decision that I've made. We're recording now, by the way.
Good morning, Nancy Rommelman.
Good morning, Sarah Hepla. It is still morning here, and we're jumping in here quick, aren't we?
Um, there's a lot going on in the world, and we wanted to hop on it because that's
Mm-hmm.
our signature move. A couple
Mm-hmm.
things before we get started. Um, you sound like you're broadcasting from the bottom of a well.
Well, in fact, New York apartments are expensive, so I have moved in underground here, under a little sewer cap. I creep in at night. So yes, I am in my new office, which, as you can see, doesn't have a lot of stuff in it yet, so there's nothing to absorb the sound. But by next week at this time, there will be a couch and daybed over there, so it shouldn't be so echoey. I apologize.
Yeah, you might want to get some styrofoam
Oh yeah,
wall,
great.
something like that. I mean, you really like. I don't know why. It's just a room, but you sound so echoey. But um all complaint letters can be addressed to nancyrommelman@gmail.com. Um,
It's not my email, but okay.
oh yeah, it's not. I didn't even do that on purpose, but it's not your email. Um, okay, couple things. Um, your hair
Is
is
awesome.
interesting.
It's awesome. Is what the word I think you're looking for.
It's got a little flock of seagulls thing going on, like a like a sort of 80s new wave.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, no, I like it. I just, right before we started, I was like, are you settled on that hairstyle? Is that, because sometimes we'll finish a podcast and Nancy will be like, you didn't tell me I looked like dog poo. I had this and that. And I'm like, well, I always think you look nice. So anyway, I think she looks nice now, but I
Thank
did
you.
want to point out that she has something of an eccentric hairstyle.
I think Flock of Seagulls is just a great, great reference. And a lot of people here will get it and some will be like, huh? So we'll make sure in the notes that you know what we're talking about.
We'll write that down, Nancy,
I got
because,
it. It's on my pad.
okay, too much backroom
That's
drama.
right.
You don't, the listeners
You
don't
don't need to
need
know.
that.
Yes.
I'm going to share something um, shortly before this podcast. I learned that a close friend of mine, one of my favorite people in the world, my college buddy Dave, who's been struggling with colon cancer for a while now, died. And he was 53. He is one of those, like the people that built you. Like I'm sure we
Mm-hmm.
could all make a list
Mm-hmm.
of like if you like Sarah Hepola, you would. It's because of XYZ. It's definitely because of Dave Barenko. He was a huge influence on me in my college years. He was a doppelganger for John Belushi, both physically and maybe in other ways too. And I'm shook. I'm a little shook. But
Okay.
I wanted to. Dave was one of the people that really taught me to be confident in my point of view. He was a debater. I mean, he was a master debater.
Wait, no, no.
No, I know. I'm sorry, Dave, but I had to do that. I had to do that. So anyway, he was became a lawyer, like most of my friends, but he was incredibly proficient with words and ideas and arguments, and we would just spend hours and hours arguing, and I was not always the well-spoken individual you see before you right now. There was much of my life when I really fought against, I would say, a lot of internal dialogue about not having being smart enough or not being funny enough or not having the right ideas. And I really sharpened my sword in those years with Dave Barenko. I owe so much to him, but part of it is my being able to find confidence in my voice because he was so strong that I had to grow stronger to step up to him. So
Oh, thank you, Dave. Thanks for helping bring us the Sarah Hepala we know and admire and respect and love. So
yeah,
I'm sorry you lost your friend.
yeah, me too.
It's,
My
yeah.
love to his family and his two sons. Um, we have a story. There's a hot one out there. There's a hot potato, a spicy meatball. Um, This hit yesterday. And you know what's weird about this story that's been kind of ongoing for a while? We're going to be talking about Graham Platner. Um, I went to Twitter yesterday and I saw Graham Platner's apology before I knew what he had done. So I was aware that he was denying something, and I was like, okay, he
What
denies
is
it,
it
and
now?
yeah,
Like,
what it could be anything,
it's Monday,
and
so
yeah, and then shortly after that, Nancy Rommelman, my wing woman, my better half, texted me a story from Politico. The headline was woman who dated Graham Platner says he sexually assaulted her. Um, we're recording this on what's today? Tuesday morning,
Tuesday.
Tuesday at like 11 a.m. Eastern time. So as of right now, Platner has not dropped out of the race. But this was a bomb that exploded on a field that had had several bombs.
Yeah. There was already bits of Graham Plattner on the field, a toe, an ear, and because of his sort of, came onto the scene, and the Dems are really kind of desperate for some new faces and some new blood, and he was, saying the things that really make a lot of people respond about, bringing down prices and healthcare and schooling and things that
Oligarchs. Hmm.
really, really, really resonate with the more liberal. Not that Maine is like this completely liberal bastion. There's a lot of redness going on in Maine, but he was appealing. He was sort of handpicked by some operatives, which is a very strange story to me in itself. But he had some issues. Women had come out and claimed that he had been sexually or emotionally abusive. There was the Nazi slash, is it really a Nazi tattoo? Or it is a Nazi tattoo, but did he really know?
Right.
But every single time, or pretty much every single time, though there was a lot of opposition to him and people, it was like red meat for people that didn't like him, you had the more democratic and liberal establishment backing him up, whether it was the Bernie Sanders or Pod Save America or even CNN. Like they were like, you know what? He's our guy. He's a fresh face. Yes, these things happen. It
Nobody's
happens to every.
perfect. Yeah.
It happens to everybody. We should believe him. Believe men. Uh, yeah.
That's
However,
changed. That used to be something different.
yeah, believe men. So then the New York Times article definitely was a poop in the punch bowl for Platner. This was about 3 weeks ago, I
Yeah.
would say. And, several women, including one who happens to be in a Republican space, which is, which I just find shocking. It's like, yeah, believe women, except if they're on the other side. If they're on the other political side of the fence, then we don't believe them. It's
Okay,
all a political.
before you reach the sarcasm portion of this podcast, let's lay out the stakes. Nancy
Yes.
just turned around. She was like, "No, I only want to be at the sarcasm part of them." Yeah, no. The New York Times story, which ran about 3 weeks ago, focused on a woman named Lindsay Fifield.
Five fields, yeah.
Yeah, and she dated Graham Platner. She was under the impression that she was only going to be part of a larger story. She ended up being the focus of that story. It's mysterious what happened there, and I don't think we're going to get to the bottom of that. But
We're
the New York
not.
Times is one of the angles of interest on this story, which we'll get into later. But basically, she accused Graham Platner, her on again, off again boyfriend, of some some troubling behavior, and and there was not a huge response from the Democratic and progressive side. There was a lot of rallying behind Platner. He went on to win his Democratic primary. He is, going up against Susan
Susan Collins.
Collins, and and there was a lot of reason to believe he would win. Um, I'm not so sure now. There's a few reasons for that. I don't think they're entirely partisan. I think the partisan aspect of this is undeniably part of the story. Like any of these explosive stories, it's not actually one thing, it's many of them at once. And it's created an explosive environment. If you go to Twitter, it was really outpacing the fact that USA got knocked out of the World Cup last night.
Yeah.
Did y'all watch that?
I did. I got to tell you, obviously, going for USA, they just came onto the field and the entire first half, it was
I
like,
heard that.
guys, you're supposed to actually be on your side of trying to get a goal over here. They just couldn't get it together. It was really kind of flaccid. Like did they come to play? And they
Well,
kind of puffed up a little in the second half. They didn't bring it. They played better. Belgium's a better team. What am I going to say?
there you go. And,
I,
I'm sorry that it went out like that. I'm sorry it
yeah.
ended like that
Yeah.
because the US had some great matches. And, this World Cup has proven that Americans can love soccer. But I'm not sure that we proved that Americans will
Can play
dominate at
soccer.
playing it. So,
It
so
was funny.
you know,
After the USA lost, the commentator was like, "And just remember, you do love soccer, Americans," because they're just afraid everyone's going to turn off the channel now. So we'll be watching. We're going to still
okay.
watch. So
So the Politico story that drops yesterday, we're not going to spend a ton of
yep,
time on that because I'll bet people already know it, but let me just like give people
yep.
the basics here. This is centered on a 51-year-old Maine resident named Jenny Rasico. I'm going to assume that's how to say her name. Do you know
S
otherwise?
No, Rasico. It looks like what Rasicot. Rasico. Let's go with Rasico.
Okay, I'm going to quote from the piece. She had an on and off relationship with Platner, who's now the Democratic Senate nominee in Maine, for more than 2 years before he entered her rural Maine home uninvited one night in late 2021, deeply intoxicated, and forced himself on her while she repeatedly told him to stop. She said she cut off contact with him after telling him the encounter was not consensual. So that's, this is a very bad sounding accusation from a credible source. She was also on Jake Tapper's CNN show where she gave an interview. I saw a lot of clips from that. And, you know, pretty quickly, we saw a lot of the Democratic establishment me tooing themselves out of endorsements, if you know what I mean. Like Ro Khanna was like, "Yeah, I don't back this guy," and some other people were like, Me too. I'm out. I'm out. We're all out." So the Democratic establishment is falling away. I did see some people defending him, and we'll get to that later. Before we get to that, one of the reasons why I was frustrated by the Believe Women hashtag or the slogan is that I actually, as a journalist and as a careful reader, never think that you should just believe anybody. Like, I just don't think that. Even my mother, I'm like, well, what would the other guy say? And I love you, mom, but I believe that all people are unreliable narrators in their own life. And therefore, they tell versions of the story that flatters them, reduces their own culpability or responsibility in the interaction, even if the interaction is how I drove home or what I got for lunch. I mean, I just think this is natural and and really unconscious in a lot of ways. A lot of people don't even know that they're telling a tilted version of the story. But that's why journalists are taught to be skeptical. That's why homicide detectives learn that eyewitness testimony is terrible. That's why lawyers
Terrible.
learn to look at alternate angles. I could go on and on about this, but the credulity suggested by Believe Women was just far too simple for my taste. I mean, Believe Women to begin like as a starting point and then interrogate what they're saying and check it against the balance sheet and okay, that's enough of my soapbox. There's some stuff in this story that sort of made me go, huh. And I thought maybe you and I could share some of the moments that we went. Um, Probably the first one for me comes with her therapist. So we're gonna hear the story of this happening 5 years ago, which, in the world of Me Too is actually relatively recent, thank God. I'm so
Sure.
tired of
Right.
litigating stories from 1973. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, what the hell are we doing? So, okay, 5 years ago. Um, Even that though, I mean, it's hard. I can't remember what I did yesterday. So it's very hard to figure out what you did 5 years ago. I get it. But we're going to look for corroborating evidence. And so the Politico story mentions that they spoke to her therapist. Here's the quote. Her therapist responded that Rasico shouldn't have to speak publicly about a traumatic incident in order to be believed, without referencing details of any particular incident. The therapist, who Politico agreed not to name in her request, declined to comment when reached on Monday. What the what?
So basically, what the therapist is saying is that she shouldn't be required to provide any details at all about this traumatic experience. Just saying, I had a traumatic experience. Okay, bye. I'm going to go to the movies now.
It's a fascinating contradiction because on one hand she's saying, I decline to be interviewed and don't name me. Okay. And on the other hand, she's saying, well, just believe her. She shouldn't need
Yes.
to have any corroborating evidence. It's very unusual.
Okay, I want to say that I understand very well, and more as we go into these stories, that people do not want to be named because their lives
Oh,
will
I don't
be
want to be named.
turned.
I don't want to be named on this podcast.
We're changing the name of this podcast to
Thank you.
Anonymous and Anonymous. That her life she will immediately become a target. People will be outside of her
100%.
house and she's done, which is why when the original New York Times piece came out and Fifield, or however you say her last name, Lindsay Fifield, like I could understand anybody in that piece, their hesitancy to come out about this.
Oh,
It's
for
like,
sure.
if I do this, I'm going to be pilloried by my political enemies. People that want me on stage are going to be pulling me on stage. Maybe I have a husband, maybe I have kids, I have a job. I do not want to do this. And yet, I'm feeling like this information about this man needs to be known. So I can understand the therapist not wanting to come forward. There were two things about this political piece that really stuck out to me. Let's go to the first one because it's not going to be as long a conversation. It was that Jenny Rasico hesitated to come forward because she agrees with his politics.
Okay, I'm going to read the quote just so
Read the
people
quote.
can make
Yes.
sure that
Yes.
be clear that you're not misrepresenting what she said. This was actually a quote from her in the Politico story. One of the reasons I didn't come forward sooner was the huge moral conflict that I had between supporting his politics but not supporting him as a person.
I found this I found this to be like someone that had been in a indoctrination camp for years and just now had to be like, I could have my freedom, but now I don't know if I can because I have to support this thing which is more important than morals and what I've experienced. I was like, lady, it's not all that. And it's fucking politics. And you're gonna believe this dude? You know him to be maybe not a great guy, and yet because his party platform, which he's never gonna be able to achieve because none of them ever achieve anything, is going to be the deciding factor? I found that like, wow. Hey, listeners in listener land, and for those of you on YouTube, maybe watching it, thanks for being here. This is the end of the free portion of this episode. If you would like the entire episode, got to head over to Substack. That's smoke'empodcast.substack.com. Become a paid subscriber. Many ways to do that. You get the full episodes and you get some other niceties and etc. and etc. And if you are over here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button as well. We appreciate it. Tell your friends. Thanks.